Mic check 1 2 1 2. Back in the place to be. We are running with WARR. Kyle Means here. Drew Stevens alongside me. More of the crew gonna be dropping by during the hour. We'll be bringing you up towards the tip off of the games 5 of the Western Conference Final between the Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. Golden State trying to clear out the Mavericks for good. Dallas just held off the Warriors from making the wholesale sweep in Game 4. But I'm guessing Golden State will be fine with the gentleman's sweep if they get it done tonight. But still some drama in the air. But we'll talk a little bit about this in a minute when the other guys show up. I think most of the drama is squeezed out of these conference finals rounds. We pretty much got the finals set up, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But again, Drew's with me. Like I said, a couple of the guys should be showing up during the hour. Gabe and Josh in particular. But we're just gonna chill out here for a little bit, just sort of doing our quota, getting our show in for this week, and convene a little bit before the holiday weekend. And man, just what's going on with you, Drew?
Man, nothing much, man. Nothing much. I was excited about these conference finals, or at least the Eastern Conference portion of it. Before they actually started, but I found myself turning the games off long before they're over, getting into some of this power universe that I never really got into when it was hot, when it was really buzzing. Currently watching Raising Canaan now, so I found myself drifting more toward that than these playoffs, which is kind of disappointing. I never really was that interested in Golden State and Dallas. As surprising as that might sound, I know a lot of people,
But you just thought that was a foregone conclusion or something?
Man,
you didn't like the matchup?
I guess so. It's just Luka Doncic is a great player, but he's not somebody that, for me, that I got to rush home to watch play. I don't know why. I can't explain it because dude has game, obviously. Like, he's putting up numbers that rival, or in some ways, I think are better than the ones that LeBron put up at this same age. But
he's putting up numbers that only Jordan has done in the playoffs.
True, Jordan and was it Jordan and Will? Or was it
just pretty much.
Okay, yeah.
But Jordan, like him, and he may have at a point he was like tied with Jordan for the best playoff average, but he may have. I don't know if he surpassed. He may have surpassed it. He may have. These things they jump back and forth. So with him being active and stuff. So, but he's come to play. I think. I don't know what your bias is. Maybe you're maybe we're seeing some anti-European bias from Drew, I think. Whatever it is, I think the Mavericks just don't really have what it takes yet, and that's sort of what I was like before the series. Me and Gabe was talking a little bit about it, and that's kind of what I was saying. But no, you was with us too. I think you gave the predictions, and I said I just didn't think that Dallas had the horses to run with the Warriors, and that's kind of been what it comes down to. They've had some good quarters, some good stretches, but when it comes down to it, they can't do what the Warriors do, and especially in scoring. And they don't have the type of lockdown. And this will be key if we end up with the Boston Golden State matchup. It's like Boston really is the only team in the league that plays the sort of defense that could maybe contain, even think about containing Golden State. Really, nobody else really plays any sort of physical, man-to-man defense for the most part that can, yeah, have the guys to really, like I say, run around with Golden State's guys, and deflect passes and deflect shots the way that they, getting their shot, way of their shots the way that you would really need to for the course of a whole series to stop them.
Yeah, I would have put. I would have. I'll go there with you. I would say that Boston, I think, is the best team that's equipped to deal with that. But I would throw the Heat in there too, because the Heat are very physical too. But with the injuries that they have and um, the lack, they don't have enough of the defenders who are also plus on the offensive side of the ball to kind of mirror what Boston can maybe do with Golden State. So I'll give you that for sure.
But you were more excited about that series though, that the Eastern series.
I was, man. I was. You got two crazy defenses. Two teams that are physical, play a similar type of switch heavy defensive scheme. I'm a Jimmy Butler fan, so I was hoping that he would carry on his performances that he was getting before this series started, or at least the first couple games into the series. But that knee injury has seemed to slow him down just as much as the Boston's defense has. Hero Lowry being hurt doesn't do him any good either. But I think Boston was already the better team going in. I was just hoping for maybe like a 6 or 7 game series, which, we're going to get the 6th game. Now, the 7th game is probably, I don't know, but I just thought the games would go a little differently, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Miami just seemed to lose. They're running out of gas, and Jimmy can't even really give them what they need at this point. And when you shoot the way that they shot in game 4, it was game 5, I should say. Excuse me. They were just really not playing the type of game that they needed to, and they don't. That was another thing I sort of thought about. Before that series, I didn't think they need another guy. Joel and me, sort of trolling on Twitter said they need another star on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think some people may say that the star that Miami has should still be in Philly. Maybe that would have made Philly the other team in the Eastern Finals this year if he was there. But they need another guy, and as good as their defense can be, as well-rounded as their team is, if you don't have another guy, especially when Jimmy is sort of beaten down, who can give you 30 or 40 in a tough stretch, what you gonna do against a team like Boston?
Yeah,
we seeing it, and what do you think about the way that series is just played out? Like the first 4 games with like the alternating blowouts, and it's wild because Boston only lost like 2 of those quarters really, but they lost 2 quarters in those 4 games, but they lost two of the games by outsized results, and then they come like it's one of the weirdest series that's been in recent memories.
It is. I think I heard one of the national guys break it down and say that it really isn't that hard to understand when you just look at how the two teams play defense, and because they're so good at cutting each other's water off for long stretches of time, couple that with the way Miami's half-court offense can sometimes get bogged down, and you kind of get what we've been getting. So
it's been too good of a matchup, kind of.
Yeah, it's like just two rocks rubbing together, I guess, man. It's just
yeah. But it's friction all series.
Yeah, man. It's definitely been like a rock fight, and unfortunately, Miami's getting stung with a lot more hits than they able to deliver the Celtics' way.
let's see what Gabe can offer this part of the discussion. I don't know how many rock fights Gabe got into coming up, but around my way, rock fights were a thing. You know, that was, you know, we didn't have much to play with back in the day. You know, it toughened you up. You know.
I don't know much about rock fights. I got in a couple with my hands though, for sure.
Yeah, that happened too. But
right.
sometimes you might just want to throw a rock at a dude. You know. Anyway, what's going on, Gabe, man?
Not much, man. I can't call it. How y'all doing?
All right, man.
We good.
Right.
We it's in the middle of talking, you know, sort of talking about these series that they played out, and you know, there's been some talk about, you know, how competitive or you know, sort of competitive these series have been, and you know, the uniqueness of the competitiveness, in particular in the Miami Boston series. You know, what's your take on how that series is played out? We'll get back into the Western Conference Finals in a little bit, but as far as the, you know, Boston's up, like I say, 3-2 now. They got a good chance to close it out tomorrow night on their home court. They seem to have, the balance of things that seem to have shifted firmly on their side now, but you can't really be too sure that, given how the series has played out with them going back and forth and everything. But you know, what's your take on how things have gone?
It's kind of played out like an 80s middleweight fight. You know, like you got one round where you really got two prize boxers, and then one round, you know, you got fighter A in one corner doing his thing and you know, coming out early, striking, and then you got the fighter B on the other side. He comes in, he gets his blows, and it's one of those matchups where it shows you truly how the game of basketball is indeed a game of runs. And I think what you also seeing in this series is two teams that, in spite of having a lot of veterans on their roster with playoff experience, you can tell that these teams are not truly championship laden teams. And what I mean by that is you can tell that they haven't been there and done that before. Granted, Miami has been to a finals within the last couple of years with Jimmy Butler and Bam, but they were riding momentum that they had gained and gathered by being in that bubble. And, you know, it was a different scenario 2 years ago, where as now, you know, you got home court and you see them squandering a lot of opportunities, particularly in first quarters of games. But then you also have games where, like, they get off to good starts, such as they did in game 3. Did with Boston. It's like you put together a game where you can play well for 3 out of the 4 quarters, as they showed in game 1, but yet you get sloppy with the ball. You turn over the rock. You stop the ball from moving. Everyone wants to go ISO. Jaylen Brown, who, you know, as great as he's been off the ball and active as a cutter, he's been very turnover prone when the ball is in his hands. And it's shown that no matter how the series plays out, that one of the priorities for the Celtics this offseason is going to have to be finding a point guard. Because as great as Tatum and Brown are as a duo, you have to ask yourself, if you're Brad Stevens, do I really trust them navigating with the rock, with the game on the line? You know, especially Brown over Tatum. I think Tatum has shown his ability, you know, with his skill set, being able to get into the mid-range, getting those pull-up jumpers and whatnot with ease. But you could just tell that these two teams don't have that championship pedigree, which is what we're seeing from one team in particular in the Western Conference, in spite of, you know, interchanging parts amidst their big three, who's been there and done it before. So I just think that it's one of those series where, like, in my opinion, like Boston, this series should be over. Boston should have this series. Like, I don't even think it should be a game 6. But and I think they really have the momentum. If they lose this series, it would be a real devastating blow, because one thing about the playoffs, you can't play with chances. And it's wide open right now. And I think this is probably the best chance that we'll ever see Boston have winning an NBA championship.
I'm a little surprised about you saying that there's such a lack of pedigree. I mean, understandably, nobody has the pedigree who's left of Golden State. But Boston does. Their top guys have quite a bit of playoff experience. They don't necessarily have, like I say, the finals experience, but they have playoff experience
That
up
was my
to this
point.
level. Yeah,
And that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll just say I think at times when you've had, when you've had like Derek White on the court, I think they've had some of that look of a floor general out there that has provided them that sort of stability that you're sort of asking of them. They don't, but they haven't done it consistently enough to totally control the series and close it out in 5 games like they should have. But I think when you look at I'm trying to think the Monday game, they were particular at the start of that game. That was particularly revealing, and a lot of they got by with a lot in the last game, but I'm kind of more focused on Miami and their deficiencies than I would say any deficiencies of Boston. I just think that Boston has they have enough of everything that you would need from a team right now to win this series, and I have a hard time seeing them losing this series, even if they lose this next game.
I have a hard time seeing them lose this series too, but it's something that you don't play with in playoffs, and that's momentum.
Sure.
Like Game 6 is in Boston. Like they have, in my opinion, that's a must-win game. You want to try and close out series as fast as you possibly can. You don't want to give the Heat any momentum at this point. Herro's hurt. Kyle Lowry really looked like he had no business being out there, but as you see, he's laboring, trying to play through the pain because they need him. And yeah, Miami's deficiencies are very glaring. Like I can see that obviously. Like with their offense, it's hardly little to any flow within it. And you feel like Gabe Vincent, shout out to him. Like what
he
they
was
paid
good.
1.6 million, like he really kept them in the game. But they it's been too inconsistent.
But again, it's Gabe Vincent.
Aggressive enough. Bam Adebayo hasn't been aggressive enough. Like Game 3, I'm trying to figure out where that guy is. And I've been wanting to see that guy all playoffs long. But I haven't seen it since Game 3. And they've tried to get him involved, but he's been passive. And even though I know Boston has playoff experience, which I alluded to, and yes, to me, they are the favorite and they should seek to close this series out. But one thing about Boston, when they get sloppy, it looks bad. When they turn the ball over, it affects them on the defensive end as great as their defense is. And like I said, like even though I think Boston is the best team remaining out of the 4 overall, they have never won. And when you have a team that's never won, you always are watching, or at least me, I'm watching and I'm saying, prove it. And it reminds me of like the LeBron James era, like Celtics teams. Great teams, but it's like, prove it. You have to show me that you can win the East in order for me to anoint you as the team in the East to beat.
Okay. Well, see, I didn't know you. I didn't necessarily say they were the best of the 4 left, but
I think that's
understandable. It's understandable.
I like where you're going with that though, Gabe, because now I might live to regret this, but if we do get a Celtics Warriors, I'm picking Boston. And
me too.
Again, man, like I don't know, because I feel like last year I owe Chris Middleton an apology for the way that he stepped up and played, especially in the crunch time for the Bucks last season. Kind of toggling between Giannis for in terms of their go-to guy. In this particular playoffs, at least as it stands right now, like I feel like I owe the Warriors as a team an apology just from the standpoint of believing that they didn't have enough dogs or maybe a system that could slow down Doncic enough to keep him from really putting his signature on the series. But between Andrew Wiggins and even Kevon Looney, man, like the role players have been like extremely good for them in this series and in this playoffs. And to your point, Gabe, that's kind of the difference between part of the difference between a championship team and one that just aspires to get there is the other guys stepping in, hitting shots, playing sound defense, team defense, grabbing rebounds, grabbing loose balls, like those little things. Because usually the stars are going to show up and do what they need to do as long as they're not injured. But it's that sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth man, depending on the coach and his rotation, that are going to kind of pull it over the top for you. And Andrew Wiggins looks even better, dare I say, for the Warriors than Andre Iguodala did when he won Finals MVP for that team for his defense on LeBron James back in the day.
Yeah, Wiggins has pulled out has made people pull out some cold takes. Nick Wright in particular got fronted on because of his outrageous cold take now on Wiggins. And Looney, I'm glad you mentioned Looney, man. I remember, again, talking before the series, Gabe, I think you mentioned this about Golden State not necessarily having that productive guy in the middle like they've had in past championships. But, Looney has put together some numbers that we haven't seen from, maybe Bogut at some point will do some numbers like that in the past. But, I don't remember JaVale or, anybody like that putting together numbers like he's did in this series so far. Like he's really been on it and like getting rebounding and like I say the protecting the rim. He's been so energetic and really impressive over the course of this series.
In my opinion, he the most valuable role player left in these NBA playoffs. Honest to God, because I think this is a tied series if not for his effort and his contributions in game 2. You talk about the way in which they were able to come back and overcome a 20-plus point deficit. They did that all off of his work off the glass. And then you saw Luka and Dinwiddie and Brunson trying to pick him apart for some odd reason and isolate him in the pick and roll. That didn't prove to be a good matchup when they actually was having more success with Wiggins in game 2 than they were with Looney. But they went right back to that for some odd reason. I don't know why. Then they started falling in love with the 3-ball. In my opinion, even though it's a 3-1 series, it really should be a 2-2 series. But
that game 2,
yeah, but because that game 2 is going to be the game that's going to haunt Dallas all summer long if they can't find a way to pull off what we all know has been impossible for so many years in the NBA because no team has ever done it, coming back down from 3-0.
I love
that's the type of game.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I love what Jason Kidd said after game 3 and talking to reporters. You're just reminding everybody that even though they're on the brink of elimination, this isn't the end. Like this is actually like the very start of what the Dallas Mavericks can be. As long as they're able to make the moves on the margins, even maybe one big move, depending on what happens with Brunson or if something would have happened with Zach LaVine. You never know, but it's interesting to see where these different teams can go or where they go from here. And one other thing that has been interesting to watch is the young bigs, the Bam Adebayos, the Jaren Jackson Jr.'s, the DeAndre Aytons, 3 guys who most teams, any team would love to have, but each kind of have like a fatal flaw to their game that they're going to have to overcome to really push their team to another level, I think.
And not only just push their teams to another level to get paid and get max dollars, because as we've been hearing lately with DeAndre Ayton, it's a lot of reports coming from out of the desert that he might be looking to get sent in a deal in a signing trade in order to get his max deal. I think he's a guy that a lot of teams will covet. And then also Robert Williams as well, who's been like the biggest X factor for Boston. I think in every game he's played in the series, they've won. In the games he hasn't played, they've lost.
Yeah, and I think there is some truth to that. And he's had somebody put some stats to this that I don't have in front of me, but whether or not he's playing has a big effect on how Bam looks too. So he's been very key for them as well.
Because when Bam got off in Game 3, Robert wasn't out there.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. That's another one of the reasons why I'm putting my eggs in Boston's basket if they end up meeting with the Warriors. Because I don't believe the Warriors have had to face. I take that back because they did face Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's a little more susceptible to foul trouble. So it's a different type of rim protector that they're going to have to, try to get around and over come next round.
Yeah, I agree. It's going like the lack of a 5 or a true 5. It can play a big factor in the series. But if Kevon Looney, I don't know what's gotten into the dude. Like ever since Game 6 against the Grizzlies, when he played a big part of that comeback. Like his energy and effort on the rebound on the glass this time of year is something I don't see from most players. And he did it in 2019 too, because I remember against the Rockets in Game 6 of the conference semis, he was real big on the glass for them. So like even when he's not scoring, he's always doing something, man. The little things right, and that's necessary to help Golden State go.
Is this a contract for him?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a contract. Yeah, I do believe he's on an expiring.
Okay.
And Sean got me looking up Looney's info, like talking about the Robert Taylor homes. I know he's from Milwaukee. I'm not seeing any connection to Chicago, but I maybe Sean knows something we don't about his family. So, but yeah,
this is his contract year, $5.1 million this year. Yeah, he off the books next year for Golden State, so that might explain what's up too.
yeah. I mean, look, he trying to stay out the projects apparently, so he can get some more money. he could be a guy. Yeah, some people can look at out there as far as interior presence. Maybe even Chicago, maybe the Bulls could maybe look at him something.
Yeah, it's one of those things too, where it's like he's looking really good, but how much of that is due to the system and him being in that system for a number of years, and how he's looking somebody else's system. But yeah, no doubt, I'm not trying to take nothing away from him, man. He's looked really good.
Well, speaking of people who has needed to prove things in the past and may need to prove some things in the future, Zach LaVine, I want to get a little bit of talk in about the ongoing rumor mill with him as we move on here. Coming up this week, it seems that things are starting to get a little spicy now with the rumors with him. TMZ catches him. We know how they like to mix things up. They and I wonder how much they work in tune with certain. I wouldn't be surprised they work in tune with certain agencies and stuff like that, especially maybe Clutch and stuff. Yeah, Gabe, give me in. But he's out in LA. They get him on video, of course, and they get him talking about how much he loves LA and the Lakers and stuff. So, of course, that's been the primary rumor with him. People want to get him in LA somehow. Beyond that, I guess there's any type of number of possibilities that's out there, but of course, you got the build back towards that is, I think people who are more in tune with the Bulls saying that it's going to be hard for him to leave the Bulls, and you can't really expect him to leave the Bulls, especially with the money at hand that he can be offered only by the Bulls for a max contract. He can only be offered 5 years as well by the Bulls and like around $212 million, whereas he will lose about $55 million if any at most. If anybody else even offers him a max, and they can only offer him 4 years at most. Right. So you're talking. That's of course the obvious motivation for him. But who knows? He may be motivated by something else. He may want to be number 3 in LA, and probably be on a team that with him probably would be better suited to compete for a championship next year. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole thing? And do you think that Zach is going to be purely motivated by what he can get as a free agent, from the Bulls, or what the possibilities are for him to team up with other stars in other places?
I think this is a clutch ploy, but I will say this: Zach interest in the Lakers has always been high, and that's always been something I monitored dating back to All-Star Weekend 2020 when he was doing a lot of interviews. He talked about the possibility of trying to go to LA then. So if he were to go to LA, I'm not gonna say I would find that completely surprising, especially when you also tie in the clutch factor as well, with Rich Paul and whatnot. However, I think this is being done as a ploy to put more pressure on the Bulls to make sure that they don't mess up this deal and that they give him the maximum deal that they can on paper. Because if you think about it, when have we ever known the Bulls to give over 200 plus million to a player? Granted, Derrick Rose was different because when they gave him that money, it was like off of his third year, and then they had to insert a rule in his name to do that because he had accomplished so much in the game to that point to where he was underpaid a great deal on his rookie contract. So for deal number 2, that's why he got the max. Like, this would be the biggest contract signed by a player in Bulls history. And they know with Lonzo also being a clutch client, like, hey, you got it. Like, this is a big deal because the Bulls have never had a Rich Paul client up until this season when they got Zoe, and then LaVine, who came here. I think he was rep by CAA before he was represented by Clutch. He left CAA to go to Clutch. So that's a big deal now. And most dudes, when they go to Clutch, regardless of the sport, which Rich Paul has turned that agency into like a conglomerate at this point, they represent so many guys, including Tim Anderson and the Whiteside. Like, when guys go to Clutch, they're going to Clutch to get paid.
Yeah.
They're going to Clutch to get paid. Like, it's plain and simple. If like 5 years, 212, like whatever that max is, that's what Rich and them trying to get. And if they don't get that, they're going to use that as bait to say, well, hey, we can go wherever. Because they know now Zach, like, they can't lowball him the way that they did on the second contract because he was coming off the ACL. And Zach LaVine was playing the last 2 to 3 years on his deal underpaid. And everybody in the city knows.
Yeah, I think Zach will be back, barring any other, what we'll see in the next several weeks. I think it is about the money. I think he's made it clear that he wants to get paid what he feels he's worth. He's done very well for himself to become one of the premier, scorers in the league, but not just a scorer, but somebody that scores with efficiency. Like, I think it was last season, not this most recent one, the one before that, before the changes came in, the changes happened. Only him and Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, Karl-Anthony Towns, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Larry Bird were the only ones to average, I think it was at least 25 points on like 50, 40, 90 shooting or close to that in that free throw category. That's exclusive territory, man. That's ridiculous, especially when you consider who was around him, who was on that team when he did it. It's not like he had DeRozan or Lonzo or Vooch. Like, defenses were keying in on him, or at least you think they would, even though it's a regular season. It's not like it's the playoffs where you're playing one team for a certain amount of games. But and he was on the road to doing that again before that injury. His numbers were awesome, kind of rivaling DeMar DeRozan, even though DeMar DeRozan kind of became the number one guy late in games. But I think a lot of that had to do just because DeRozan, unlike LaVine, in my opinion, he knows where he wants to get to, exactly where he wants to get to. Whereas LaVine, I think it's a little bit more of a freestyle. Like, he's just looking for space, not necessarily a place on the court. But I think he's going to get his money. That's crazy. I didn't think about that, Gabe, about if he is offered that 212, that 5 years for 212, that he'll become the guy for the Bulls who's gotten the largest amount of money on a deal. That's crazy to think about. Not anything against him, just in general, just about who's come through those doors and the amount of money they guys.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I thought about that. That's the first thing, because I'm like, when Cal brought them numbers up, I'm like 212. I'm like, I can't recall a time in my life where a Bulls player has gotten that much. Like, if you was a Bulls, like when Derrick Rose got that money, that was a landmark deal. The Bulls don't do too many landmark deals like that. The White Sox don't even do too many landmark deals like that. So it's really putting pressure on ownership to say, hey, y'all in the third largest media market. You know, this a hallmark franchise. If he's your guy, pay him top dollar. And even though DeMar did become option number one in crunch time, Zach played that number two role very well. I still look at Zach as the true number one in a sense because he's the youngest. And as DeRozan ages, I'm not saying I expect him to fully decline because I know how much work he puts in, but at some point, even right now, this is Zach's team. It's currently constructed. He won't have.
He put in the work to be. He put in the work here for it to be his team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the wild rumors or storylines that some people are trying to play up is that maybe Zach has gotten a little jealous because of what DeMar was able to accomplish in his only year here so far. You know, we're gonna get into the All NBA team in a minute. DeMar makes the second All NBA team based on his great performance this season, and he was an MVP candidate for most of the season. But I think that's really really you have to really downplay that because you can't say that he wants to be a number one guy clearly, or he's jealous of a teammate's accomplishments or shine or whatever, and then say, well, he's willing to go to the Lakers because then you're gonna be. He's not going to outshine LeBron or even AD in a lot of ways.
Or AD.
So,
I just say
that. I say in a lot of ways, he's not going to outshine AD either. Yeah. So
if there's any,
it's really this is the type of stuff that occurs when the main subject is not speaking and everybody else is speaking, and we're just all awaiting July 1st at this point. And seeing what's going to really go down, but it's a lot of time. It's so much time left. Yeah, it's so much time left for that. People just going to say whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, and if there's any truth to those rumors, I don't ever want to play cards with Zach LaVine because, I mean, come on, bro. The look in his eyes, the smile on his face during this season, we know how bad he wanted to win. This is a guy that put his body on the line, not just for this contract. He was doing it last season too. Ever since that first ACL injury, he said he missed enough time then. He doesn't ever want to miss games again. For him to do what he did last season, to try to drag himself through games, playing on that bulky knee, I think he should be commended for that. Whether or not you think that had everything to do with him trying to get a contract, I don't really put a whole lot of stock in that. Just the same way I don't put stock in him being in any shape, form, or fashion jealous of DeRozan or the attention that he got. Their relationship seems to be very good, and like I said,
did you put up a collage or something of
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw where he put up a collage of photos showing LaVine happy state with his teammates and stuff. Yeah.
It was just I think Barber Chair Scott had put something up. And it's along the same lines, like there's no way this dude is leaving. And then I said something to the effect of, by all accounts, this dude is very happy with this team and the direction that it's going and playing alongside DeRozan. And like you said, Gabe, it's not even a 1-2. It's almost like a 1-1A or a 1A 1B type situation, right, man. Because before Lonzo went down, before Zach got hurt, this team was rolling and. As much as we talked about the half-court offense kind of being a your turn, my turn thing, like it was still equal opportunity between the two of those guys at least. So I don't know. I think it's just a lot of white noise. Unfortunately, we're gonna have like another month of this to go, but it is what it is.
But I want to see the Bulls put their money where their mouth is, though, because this is a big deal. Because you put, I give the Bulls and I give AK and Mark credit for this part. They did everything they could in their power to make Zach's final year on this second deal, his first deal as a Bull, which was his second NBA deal. They made it worth his while. And I think that's why he gutted it out for him. I think that's why he played on the balcony, because I kept telling people at the time, he's like, well, Zach should rest games. I'm like, y'all got to think about something. Zach has never played in the playoffs. Zach has never been on a team that was, for the majority of the year, a top 4 team in the conference in the East. Like, I mean, that alone, I think, raised his antennas up to say, hey, I'm going to give it all I got no matter what contract year or not, because I want to get a chance to play in that. Like, Wiggins had gotten a chance. Towns had gotten a chance when they was in Minnesota together. He was the only guy out of those 3 that got drafted in Minnesota that hadn't been in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the way, like you say, the effort that like you say, the effort that he gave too is another sort of a plus for him, as in regards to why you would want to invest in him going forward and keep him as, you know, really your franchise guy. And that's, you know, really good. You know, you really put the nail on the head too, where you talk about the history of the Bulls and how they likely are being looked at across the league. Like it's sort of a put up or shut up thing with them, and it's like, when you look at it, it's sort of like the last step in the overhaul, the reconstruction of the Bulls, or the reevaluation of the Bulls franchise. You know, the middle management is they boosted the middle management, they boosted the coaching, they boosted the roster, but as chairman Reinsdorf on the same page? Is he gonna put out that? Is he gonna put out the checkbook and give out the money and give respect like he should? You know, it's not 1992. It's 2022, and so he can't keep playing games like he was back when he was messing with Scotty and Mike. And you know, he should have broke bread a lot sooner with some player in this league. And, you know, like I said, he did it. He technically did it with Rose, but it was obvious. It was an obvious situation there. But this is he didn't have a choice. But this is an instance where he does have a choice. But, you know, there's really only one choice to make if you want this team to continue on this upward trajectory.
And this is a big deal too. This is a big deal for one other reason as well. Everybody in the league looking. We just read the reports about Brooklyn now wanting to offer, you know, Kyrie an extension. How KD and the Nets haven't been talking since the offseason, even though it's still early in the offseason in Brooklyn. You can't tell me these dudes not looking at this around the league. And Kevin Durant been looking at the Bulls for a while. I know that. Because if you listen to a lot of his podcasts, he always giving them praise and stuff. And that dude pay attention to the league. Like, this is a big deal. If you give Zach 212 or 5, other guys looking like saying, okay, that's something different. Maybe I can go over there and get paid.
Yeah. Like you said, Kyle, that's part of the rebranding of this organization, of this franchise. And one last thing, giving him that 5 for 212 is not one of these situations where you worry about him kind of resting on his laurels. Like, from all accounts, Zach LaVine is one of the hardest working players in the league. So you don't expect him to stop being that just because he gets his money or gets the bag that he's been looking for. If anything, I see that as a driving force for him to try to take his game to another level, which, you know, all things considered with his knee, there's no reason why he can't. He still has a lot of room to improve defensively, and some areas offensively too, shot selection, ball handling, things of that nature, playmaking. So it's not like this guy is you know, going to be a finished product or has to be a finished product just because he's getting this money. Like, he doesn't have to not perform up to this contract the way that he outperformed this last one. So looking to see what he gets and how this thing is going to play out.
I have to throw another thing out when we talk about outrageous situations. I'm shouting out my corporate family, NBC Sports. NBC Sports Washington, as he put out a post today regarding Kyrie Irving, and another person, probably 1A in regards to who's what rumors are being generated more in the league is probably Kyrie and Zach right now. Kyrie's situation is a bit different, whereas the talk is Brooklyn is mulling over whether or not to invest in him, of course, long term, and so for obvious reasons, in regards to him being reliable. Of course, his ability, of course, is inarguable, but his the best ability is available, fallen woefully short in that regard in recent years. Really, his whole run with Brooklyn, he hasn't really been available for even most of the games there. But the talk about, well, maybe Brooklyn will make a deal with another team, ship him out, or any number of things that could go on with his contract. And like I say, NBC put out a post. We sort of went back and forth about doing it, putting the post up here in Chicago as well, because the Bulls were listed in this post as a team that maybe he can end up on, but it would be essentially in lieu of LaVine and him walking out the door. So I'm gonna put the post up though. Like I said, it was published on Washington website, and I'll put it up in our chat. But there's a few teams, and if you look at the address, the Heat are mentioned, and of course the Wizards as well, because like I said, Gilmore was written in Washington. I was right quick. I was just thinking, like, Kyrie actually in Miami might be a good look. The Bulls is a long shot, and then really no need for that to happen. But we was talking earlier about Miami needing another guy. If you could pick up a guy in the playoffs, if you could extend your roster to playoffs like in baseball, Miami, that might have been one of the top guys Miami would look at if he was available, of course. But of course, the Wizards, always in play for something. But I was just looking at that post for a nice laugh or a nice bit of entertainment there. But the possibilities are out there. If it's perfectly understandable to me if Brooklyn wants to break it off with Kyrie in this coming off season, and he has to go somewhere. A lot of people talking about the Lakers too with him, reuniting with LeBron. But I don't see that. I don't see anything happening with the Bulls. But even if the Bulls lose Zach, but that's just been sort of an interesting thing I came across today.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I would want to see Kyrie in Miami, but just transparency. Part of me wants to see just the dynamic between him and Jimmy. Like, I don't know how that would work.
Will be entertaining. That's the thing. Because from up here, it'd be kind of. Yeah.
I'm not trying to speak on another man's motivations or. If he has both feet in, but Kyrie, basketball isn't everything to Kyrie, man. He's made that very clear. And in some ways, it's admirable that he feels that way, even though sometimes the delivery can come off a little sideways. But I don't think that'll play in Miami, where you're supposed to play with Pat Riley and the Heat culture. You're supposed to be, living, eating, sleeping, shitting basketball, 24/7. So yep. I want to see that, but almost for all the wrong reasons.
It'd be the greatest of his team explosions.
I got the Heat payroll up right now,
man,
and I'm looking at it like Jimmy Butler getting 37.6 next year. Bam getting 30.3. The max deal is kicked in. Kyle Lowry 28.3. You only got room for 3 max guys in the league. Somebody got to get traded if you're trying to get Kyrie Irving, and it's got to be a big piece. And it can't be Kyle Lowry after these playoffs. I think his market is very low, even though he on the hook for just 2 more years. Bam has 4 more years on his deal. So does Jimmy. Somebody got to come off that book that's very, very valuable to Miami in order for them to get Kyrie. So I don't see it. The Bulls, I could see it, and I'll tell you why. Because he's hinted at wanting to come here before to the city. I remember when Jimmy Butler was here, and he was trying to get out of Cleveland. Like when he listed his teams to Cleveland when he wanted to be traded, the Bulls were up there. The only problem
I do remember that, yeah.
By that point, though, they had gotten rid of Jimmy. I think if Jimmy had stayed, maybe Kyrie could have been a Bull. It's a possibility if they were willing to put their money where their mouth was and make the trade. I could see that if they re-sign LaVine, you know, like if Kyrie gonna play, he has to want to play somewhere where he at least has a chance to win. Yeah, his heart may not be in it sometimes, but when he is out there, you know he's a guy that's gonna lay it all on the line, and he's the ultimate showman. And he's gonna need a place that is capable of gracing the stage that he provides, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And that dude outside of Cleveland, he's played in big markets. Yeah. Boston, Brooklyn. I can't see him wanting to just go to any type of market. Washington, yeah, that would be intriguing because they need a point guard. And with them trying to throw all this money at Bradley Beal and then getting Kristaps Porzingis, like Washington to do anything for a playoff run at this point. And he would give them a big 3 and a level of relevancy in the Eastern Conference that they haven't really had since that John Wall era in the late 2010s.
The Clippers would be interesting, but like you said with Miami, I don't know how that would work out, how feasible that would be financially.
And then you got to think about the Clippers too financially. Like, what picks you giving up? Like OKC own pretty much all their picks until the end of the decade. What that Paul George deal did, like it robbed them of all the assets. So who do you flip? Paul George and Kawhi getting so much money over there, like any other money that you use in LA, if you Lawrence Frank and a brain trust in the Clippers front office is utilized for them role players. They just paid Rob too.
That's true. Minnesota, I don't see, just because offense is not really an issue necessarily. Like they're pretty good. They just gotta get the experience. They gotta learn, kind of like trial by fire type of thing. I don't think Kyrie would be a good answer for them at this stage in their careers.
They got other priorities.
They're going to go young. I think a point guard going to Minnesota. And I think D'Angelo Russell is getting traded this offseason. I really believe that. No, I think they're trying to go after SGA.
Ooh.
That's just what I think. I'm not saying it can happen. I think Presti is very adamant about holding on to that guy. But one thing about Sam Presti, if he could get a nice package, he'll do a deal.
Yeah, if I'm SGA though, I got to be looking at ownership. Like, dog, what we doing, man? You sitting me for no reason late in seasons, trying to increase your draft stock. I'm trying to win. What we doing over here?
But the Thunder don't know how to tank. They don't want organization. Like they have to do that with certain guys because when they play so well that they even when they get high draft picks, it's like 7 for 9. Like the Thunder, the one organization, they've been so ran for a young, small market team, and they've been blessed to have all these wealth of stars come through there in the last decade. To where it's now like they have to do that in order to maximize on this window of not getting to playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Hopefully, if they pick up Chet or Banchero or Jabari, they can stop having to do that and just play ball.
I think they're going to be
able to finally. Because
Lou Dort, I've been wanting to see Lou Dort in the playoffs ever since that first round in the bubble. He was getting better by the game. And that's a dude, in my opinion, like every time I think of playoff guys, like he should be on there, out there at this time of year.
I agree.
Yeah, he definitely showed out in that bubble, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. We getting up on the 8 o'clock hour here. They're getting ready to get going out of San Fran. I'm going to just throw a couple of things.
Man.
What?
Nobody want to watch Luka Doncic, man.
You missed it, man. Drew say Doncic ain't a draw no more, man. He
No,
ain't
just
a draw.
me. I don't know what it is. Like I don't rush home to watch Luka Doncic, and he's dope. Don't get me wrong. I don't know
He
what
said,
it is.
don't fall in the great white hope.
I'm not gonna lie. I've watched Luka live twice. I mean, he has a slow game, but I mean, when I've watched so many isolation scores over the years, I mean, I have an appreciation for those type of guys. To me, I mean, he's a guy that I like watching over the course of a season. I just wish he had more help in these playoffs from the role players, because I think like I haven't seen a guy through his first 4 seasons really be able to cement himself as a top 5 player the way that Luka has at the guard or forward spot since LeBron.
That's what Kyle was saying earlier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that said, let me run down. He made his. I guess this is his first team NBA selection.
I think it's a second
year. Second. Is it second?
I think so, because I remember. I think he had to be on the first team All NBA in 1920.
Oh, let me look right quick because there's a link right to the year team. But let me run down this year's team first. Of course, like I say, Luka is on the first team with Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I said that wrong, but Nikola Jokic, of course, the MVP, is on rounds out the team. And there's a little bit of talk about that when they revealed it on TNT. I'll bring that up in a second. But the second team, you have Embiid. And that's where the main controversy occurs between Embiid and Jokic. But Embiid is on the second team along with Ja Morant, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and DeMar DeRozan, the Bulls representing there. And the third team, you got LeBron James, Chris Paul, Pascal Siakam, Karl Anthony Towns filling in at the center, and Trae Young. And that's where the controversy may lie in these first, second, and third teams, is that they stick to the position structure where you have to have a center, 2 guards, and 2 forwards. So a lot of people probably, that they definitely drew us in on TNT when they first revealed the teams. There may be a lot of other people. I haven't looked at really a lot of the discussion around this, but I would imagine that a lot of people probably would think that Embiid was capable or able to be on that first, but he couldn't be because of the position structure, and so he had to slide down to the second team. And you may have some of that talk too. We talk about LeBron. They mentioned on TNT about LeBron and Durant, those sort of comparison there, and them playing only a piece different. Like I believe it's like 55 to 56, the difference in games that they played. And Barkley argued for LeBron over Durant on the second team. He thought he played a little better over the course of the season. So I don't know if you guys got any thoughts on that in particular. I think the players really not much of a controversy in the selection themselves. But do you guys think that they should hold? I think it'd be a little bit easier if they just went with 2 front court, 2 back court, or 3 front court, 2 back court, and then you can have a front court with Embiid and Jokic in it, and 2 guys who, by all accounts, probably both deserve to be on the first team instead of having one have to be relegated in a certain way.
So I tend to side with what I heard JJ Redick bring up on First Take, which is get rid of positions altogether and just vote for the best 15 players, and you delineate it by squads based on how many votes each player. You know what I mean? Like, do it that way, especially when you have certain incentives tied into these postseason awards. Like, granted, there's no way Embiid was a top 5 player this year. But I'm not at all mad at him being on the second team because this is what the NBA has forced it to be because of the way they have the voting going. Like, they need to get rid of that.
Hey, you right, Gabe. Luka was he was a guard on yeah, but he's guard. Yeah, he's guard on this year's team. Yes, he was on last year's first team as well with
So he's
Steph.
been three years in a row
Yes,
since he's been
Steph
named
Jokic.
All-Star. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
remember he was
3
on the
years.
first team with James his second year in the league, and that was a big deal because I was like a second year guard making first team All NBA. You don't see that every day. But,
So
yeah.
and so well, he's 5 years in the league, so he's already been on 3 All NBA first team. That's is that has to be maybe unprecedented. We have to lift that up.
Yeah. And then, like, I'm wondering if there should be like a tried and true criteria for what makes somebody an All NBA player or not an All NBA player. Like, where's the cutoff for games played? This team records come into play, like little things like that. Like what? Because everybody's different. It's in the eye of the beholder. With a lot of these guys, some people just obvious. But like a Jimmy Butler who was left off, who missed a lot of games. People like Ja Morant got punished in a sense because he missed a lot of games, but he was clearly headed for a first team. Steph Curry, you could argue that his performance dipped enough where he lost out on that first team selection. I'm wondering if Devin Booker and Jason Tatum should have maybe canceled each other out with somebody else getting one of those spots, but there's two different positions they're getting voted in at. So I don't know, man. It's tricky. Yeah. It's tricky.
And
I just have a problem. I have a problem with the whole process, and Joel Embiid is the reason why. This is the second year in a row that this man has finished runner-up in the MVP voting, and yet he has not been named on an All-NBA first team. Mind you, he's also been cheated out of a Rookie of the Year award. Because I don't care how many games he played that year. In the 31 games he played his rookie season, Joel Embiid was the best rookie in the NBA in 2016-17. But he always Malcolm Brogdon. They gave it to Malcolm Brogdon over him. They always do this with him, and I don't know what it is. I don't get how you could be a top 5 player in the league and not make first team All NBA. He's the reason why they have to change the criteria. And I agree with you, Cal. I'm in favor of the 2 guards and the 3 front court, but I don't knock what you said as well, Drew, where you said what JJ Redick said, just vote for the 15 best players straight up. I don't knock that. You want to go in either one of those directions, that's fine. But when I saw
there's options.
But when I saw Tatum, and I like Jason Tatum, but when I saw him over Embiid, I had a problem with that. I had a big problem with it, especially when he got more votes overall than Jason Tatum. That's a problem. But because he doesn't play the 4 position necessarily, he doesn't get voted in first team. It's like we're cheating guys. Granted, he's gonna get his money either way. He's a max bound player regardless on his next deal. But like, man, that's criminal. And he was a center leading the league in scoring, and we haven't seen that in 20 years. Shaq was glad got to do that.
Yeah, and they brought up the this wouldn't have been the wildest possibility is that Embiid, because of the voting and the difference in the voting between that and MVP, you could have possibly had Embiid on the first team and the MVP on the second team, which would have brought up a whole lot of mess too. So, like these things aren't uniform. These processes aren't uniform.
Oh, yeah.
They like the MVP. We've spoke about this many times about it being a narrative award in most part. The way that is, the way that's given out. And you have that, and you have with the All NBA team this whole thing about it being mixed up with contracts and bonuses and things that come about. It affects people's money in the way that they can get in max deals. It's really amazing the way that they allow this stuff to really get mixed up. And I don't know what type of reform can be had with it. If the players are how much the players are interested in reform in that way. But I think some sort of changes need to happen unless these guys are just cool with losing out on money and losing out on reputation in some ways and legacy because they're getting shorted.
If I was a media member, I would bring it up even if I had a vote. I would.
Yeah.
I just would because I remember in 2012, 2013, Marc Gasol wins Defensive Player of the Year in Memphis. LeBron James, first team all defense. He was a runner-up, but he made first team all defense. You want to know what team Mark made that year? He won Defensive Player of the Year? Second.
Second, okay.
That's when I knew. That's when I started studying processes with vote. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. I think the CBA, this CBA runs through 2025. Am I wrong? I think.
I believe so. They got a couple more years until they come to the table.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the TV deal runs out the year before that, so they're gonna re-up.
Okay.
Yeah. What you say, guy?
It expires after the 23-24 season, but both sides have a contract that they can exercise in December.
Okay, well that's that when the TV deal was gonna get restructured too that same year. So that's gonna be interesting. But I say I don't know. We have to get someone on who is more plugged with the players about that than to have that discussion more deeply. But I would think if amongst the the rank and file probably don't care because they're not really up for these awards and stuff. But among the stars, I would think this would be a point of contention or some sort of discussion. That the guys who are up for these things and who get overlooked at times, like Embiid, have a history, like you say, Gabe. I don't know, but another thing too, right quick, before, we start to wrap up. That the whole thing about 24, I'm reminded of that because there was there's another story coming out this week about some of rumors about expansion coming after the new TV deal, and that the two locations that are being looked at for expansion are Vegas and Seattle, and I don't know that was seen to be hit all the markers, at least here in the state. There's also been talk about expansion in the Western Europe as well, but as far as the United States and what would be going on in the immediate future for the league, you're talking about Vegas and Seattle pretty much. And do y'all think that's the right way to go for any type of immediate expansion?
I love it.
Yeah, anything that's gonna bring a team back to Seattle specifically, I'm here for it, man. I think that fan base definitely deserves it. I'm here for it. I don't have any qualms about it whatsoever, man.
Yeah.
I love
it. But then we'll be talking in a few years about Zach going to Seattle.
Right, going home.
Yeah, going home. He after he three-peats in Chicago, he'll go back to Seattle and run out his career there.
I think those are the two obvious markets to start with. I just wonder who moves in the East with Memphis, because that's what I foresee happening. I feel like because when you bring in two Western Conference markets, there's 17 in the West, 15 in the East. Two teams are going to have to move to the East. I'm thinking it's going to be Memphis and it's going to be New Orleans. That's gotta be it. I mean, they've been trying to sell that Ja Morant, Zion Williamson rivalry for a while now, and I think that would be the perfect way to usher it in.
Yep. Even if he goes New York, you still got conference ties.
Pretty much, yeah. One of them teams down south got to move, and I think Memphis is just like the obvious choice.
Yeah, definitely. There were a lot of people are pinpointing Memphis for that move. Yeah, maybe New Orleans though too as well, because they had a history. It had a history in the East as the Hornets. Mm-hmm. I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind. I think I just like the idea of it's sort of matching what the NFL has with 32 teams You know, the NBA I think could hold it, and especially when you look at, probably there is, you know, enough talent in the league. Maybe 20 years ago it would have been more of an issue, but today it seems like there's enough talent for the league to hold another couple teams. So and not and it not be mess with the competitive balance. So yeah, it'll be great to Vegas is open for business. Now. It's been open for business for a few years now. So the NBA might as well get in there. And I agree with y'all completely about Seattle. Anybody who was old enough to remember the original Sonics, pretty much agrees that city and that fan base needs a team again. So definitely,
maybe that way LiAngelo Ball can stick on the roster, man.
That's what I'm saying. We need a team for LiAngelo.
I don't even mean it as no shade. I'm just saying, man.
Hey, that is a way to make a roster on the expansion team because you can find opportunities.
Yeah,
stay in shape, LiAngelo.
Up to Seattle and Vegas for sure.
According to his pops, he shoot better and can score just as good as Zach LaVine. So
yeah, just stay straight, LiAngelo, man. They're gonna be a team for you right around the corner, man.
It might be.
Well, yeah. Oh man, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I had a couple more things on the rundown. I thought Josh would join us. Josh was at the banner raiser for the Sky the other day, but Josh put up a nice piece on War Ready on our Substack. You can read it now, recapping that game from Tuesday. Sky won against Indiana, and also
got their coach fired.
They embarrassed them so much the coach got fired. That's how the Sky doing it, man. They ain't taking no prisoners. But we'll probably talk about them next week too. They got a big game this weekend with the Aces, who've been coming out hard in this early WNBA season. So we'll probably, like I said, get Josh or Chris or both to talk about that next week. But they did a segment from the game Tuesday. They were both there. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, you probably have already heard the segment that they did. I'm going to have that worked in with this. But, otherwise, you can watch it now on YouTube as well as you can watch this. But, that should be it. I still got some stuff I want to say about the basketball media that's been developing, and not covering the game, but TV projects and movie projects that's been developing, on basketball topics and stuff. There's a movie with LeBron, a movie on LeBron's life that's coming out that looks that they had people wearing masks apparently in 2002 when he played Carmelo Anthony. Like there's a picture from. If we had more time, I'd put the picture up. But it was on Twitter. There's a picture of some kid playing LeBron and some kid playing Carmelo, and they played with in high school. Like it was like 2002, I believe, when Oak Hill had played them. But people in the stands were wearing masks for some reason. We know why they were doing it because they filmed it today.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have worn a mask in 2002. So it's just some funny stuff that's going on with some of these projects that's coming out. There's an Antetokounmpo brothers movie that's coming out as well. I want to talk about these things coming up in future shows. So I'm just laying it out there in case I forget. But and then there's also that Hustle movie that's going to be on Netflix with Adam Sandler. That actually looks like it might be something.
Yeah, that look legit.
But, what's that one?
So
it's produced by LeBron. It's on. It's with Juan. It's like one of the Hernan Gomez brothers, right? Like the dude.
Oh yeah, right. The story again.
It's based on international born players. Like Doc's supposed to be in it. A few people from the league supposed
to
be.
I think
Smithy, they got a cameo in it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's some interesting things on, and we still haven't really finished talking about the winning time that wrapped up. That season wrapped up, and I still got to look at the Magic documentary. Have either one of y'all looked at that on Apple Plus?
I saw the first part.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of basketball related stuff, and there's that street ball 30 for 30 that's coming out too on ESPN.
I saw that.
So yeah, we got to have we have to talk a little bit about that stuff going on, but that we'll save that again for upcoming weeks. I say get back into the sky next week, and that's pretty much all I'm interested in. You guys got anything else before we wrapped up?
Nah, man, not at all. Just
what you gonna watch instead of the game now, since you don't give a damn about Luka?
I'm gonna watch a little bit of this, and I'm gonna finish Raising Canaan, man.
Yeah, that's right. You all up in the powers now. I like Raising Canaan. I like Raising Canaan too.
I wish I could have been raised, like been a teenager or like a young adult in the 90s, man. If I go back to any time period, I think I'd go back to the 90s. That seems just like a dope era to be in.
You wish you'd been old enough to slang crack back then?
No, not on that tip. Not on that. Just it's like the music and the vibe. I
feel you. Because I'm just messing with you. But yeah, being like that, we were old enough to remember that time. Like Gabe, you don't remember this.
I'm 93,
like,
so I kind of have some of the. I was like 5 and stuff.
But me and Drew were old enough to remember that time, but we were babies, so we weren't really outside. So it's like I could watch Tribe on videos and stuff, but I couldn't bump them in my car, or or Cube and Public Enemy, and I couldn't go out on dates with girls and press them with my BBD dances and stuff like that. We just did that in the schoolyard. We just had fun on that level, but that was a great time. But we're limited because we were still babies then.
Yeah, for sure.
But we grown now, and we gonna enjoy the rest of our evening, and we hope you do as well. Hope you enjoy your holiday. Please be safe out there, man. Be cool, man. Watch your, be thoughtful. Be thoughtful of others and everything, man. Don't be out here on no bull, because the city ain't having it. They ain't letting the cops off. Think of Brittany Griner, y'all. Free Brittany Griner. Those that we lost this week as well, and man, be thankful, man. Be thankful that we out here and celebrating. I'm thankful for you, brothers, and I'm thankful for all you who support us and watch us, and hopefully we'll be all back next week and enjoy another fresh episode of Runnin with WARR. So that's it for now, y'all. Keep bouncing, and we out.